there! It's another Tuesday, which means it's time for another in real life video. This week, we are taking a viewer-submitted question. As per usual, you can always leave a comment with a viewer-submitted question of your own that will get added to the big list. Unless it's like, super personal or, I don't know, weird. It's too weird, it's too screwed up. It's too funny. If it's too funny, we won't take that one. If it makes me seem less funny to other people, then we won't take it. If it's so, don't be too funny, or else we're not gonna take them. Anyway. Sorry. This week's general viewer submitted question. The person who submitted, their username should be somewhere in the bottom third of the screen right about now, and they ask quite simply, effectively, with recording all the videos I do, how do I manage my time? And the answer is, I don't really. I don't. I'm a huge mess. Yeah, that's really the main throughput of it is I'm not great at time management, really. Maybe this is a skill I'll develop as time goes on, but I'm really horrible at it. So every so often, in fact, just recently, I had someone ask this, a different person, completely unrelated to the weekly in real life video. They asked, hey, do you record all your videos at once for the week and then put them out over time and schedule them and stuff? And I extremely do not. I really should. A lot of folks do this, and I really should, but I'm such a inherent natural slacker that I really do not. I sort of just kind of go as time sees fit, right? The only times in which things are usually scheduled ahead of time is, like, for instance, during the holiday season, or if I know that I am traveling out of town for whatever reason, which, hey, this leads perfectly into sort of more current goings on. This weekend, from Thursday to Monday, I will be out of town. I'll get back on Monday and we'll be leaving Thursday. It's not for anything bad, but it is for, it's for something good. It's for a celebration, but I will be out of town for that period of time. And I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to get enough videos recorded ahead of time, so apologies if we have to miss some during the weekend. And if for Monday, when I get back, if it's a little bit delayed and later. But hey, more when Monday's coming out on a Tuesday is no big deal, right? We just pretend like the time zones are, in conflict. But regardless, look forward to, or perhaps dread that. But otherwise, how do I even do it as poorly as I manage, right? I guess that's the question. How do I manage to be so horrible at it? The answer is generally the day of a video it is due that day, right? We have our typical schedule, like I said, Morrowind Mondays, Starfield, or Skyrim before it, and Oblivion before that would be on days that contain the letter T, and then a CRPG on the other 3 days, right? Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, which currently is Baldur's Gate 2. And sometimes, like currently, if there's especially something new or some sort of like prescient release is coming out soon, we do a nightly one, right? And then now, of course, we do in real life videos on Tuesday, which are fun and easy enough. Don't really have to edit them anymore. Thank goodness for that. Ends up saving a whole lot of time. But probably a bit more rambly with the videos, I would guess. I don't know. That said, some folks seem to prefer it being unedited, which, hey, I guess it's personal preference. But regardless of all that, typically, the day that the video is due, thanks to me doing this full-time now, right? Some years ago, it was not the case, but now, yes, this is what I do full-time, effectively. I just record the video on the same day, right? I record it and edit it. It used to be, early on, that, especially due to the fact that I had a much worse computer and did not have the resources available to me to, like, properly buy high-end video editing software, I had to use like the free version, right? The free version that is super slow. It's like intentionally inhibited in some way. It's super slow by design. It's feature locked. Back then, I would not have been able to fly as close to the sun as I do currently, so to speak, because rendering out a video would just take so long, right? But nowadays, editing a video probably takes, it depends on the video really, probably takes about 20 minutes tops, 10 to 20 minutes, I would guess. Like I said, depends on the video. Morrowind Mondays tends to take a little bit longer because I do have to splice in the cold opening. Any Elder Scrolls video going to take a little extra longer. And then, put together a quick thumbnail, right? Which, the way in which I do thumbnails as well, while I'm on it, all of that completely designed from the ground up to be sort of a fast turnaround, right? To be sort of a speedy situation. A lot of what I've done and set up is made with the idea behind it that I don't need to dedicate too much time to it, right? With regards to the thumbnails, of course, you can see I've got like a theme going on, right? People always say that one of the most important things with thumbnails is that it's easy to recognize, oh, this is a thumbnail from this person who I'm following or subscribe to or whatever, right? That way you can very quickly and easily identify like, oh, this is a video from them. I don't even have to read it. I can just look at the picture and I know this is a video from this person, right? Probably the easiest way to do that these days is, if you're talking in the video like we do in real life videos, you see that person's face, right? You see their face and you're like, oh, well, of course this is from them. But before that, and especially with older style Let's Play videos or ones wherein you, for whatever reason, don't show your face, and of course with video essays, that's a big one too. But typically I think a lot of video essays, well, no, it's probably 50-50. Yeah. Regardless, good to have a theme, a sort of aesthetic or whatever. I'm not even sure if that's the right word. Almost a template. Yeah. Template is probably better words for that, but good to have something that's easily recognizable, and which I've done here with some sort of background designated for the playthrough, right? Like in the case of Morrowind Mondays, it's a map of Morrowind, and we've got the circle cut out with the like black border around it, and then in the center, always put, or at least try to put, a character's face, because faces and SEO just seems to go together. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, folks are drawn to faces to click on them. So I put a face in there, and it makes it super easy because I can just, in between videos, in between recording, I can just look up, oh, who's a character that we interacted with in this video? Go grab a quick screenshot of them and just paste it right in there in the template. Super easy. Could be easier. Could just do the same exact, sort of thumbnail for the entirety of the playthrough. I think that is totally fine and valid. I'm not sure how much you stand to gain from a thumbnail that changes per video, especially when it comes to playthroughs, to Let's Plays, right? Because, it's pretty rare that someone's going to click into the absolute middle of it. But regardless, that's all neither here nor there. Like I said, a lot of that is in the interest of time. And it works out pretty well. Making a thumbnail is super duper quick and easy for me. When it comes to producing the video itself, it's super duper quick. It's almost entirely unedited except for the openings and the beginnings, which, I don't know, sometimes I even wonder if I should cut out the quick little opening. I don't know. I'm always trying to think of ways to make them a lot quicker, right? I don't know. I feel like I could begin the opening of the video not with, showing the name of the game or whatever, because you already know the name of the game, right? I could just begin it with, like, when we had last left, our character's title, and that be the start of it, right? But that said, I don't know. Part of me feels weird not doing it, but it probably doesn't matter, right? And if anything, yeah, let me know what you think about that. Should I just cut that out? Obviously, for ones that have special openings, like Elder Scrolls playthrough videos, which, it's a personal favorite of mine. So, of course, they all have these unique openings where it's a cold open and whatnot. Or when we experimented with Fallout New Vegas way back when. But regardless, yeah. I debate whether or not I should even have that there at the opening, right? And just have the sort of end screen. Which, in and of itself, you will notice, this hasn't really been much of a time saver because I just create like the ending slides or whatever to begin with. But more so for more, I've done it for more cohesion. That is, I have sort of transitioned away the end screens from being big, like, animated situations where it's like, oh, check out all these scenes from the game, or check out this trailer from the game, or stuff like that, right? I used to do that a whole lot, but to me, it felt incongruent with the static nature of the end screen itself, and ultimately not that many. I don't think that many people care, right? But yeah, to me, there is a static nature to the end screen, which you sort of bake in on YouTube's end, where it's like, oh, here's a recommended video. Here's the full playlist if you want to go back to the full playlist for this playthrough. Here's subscribe. Here's the Patreon link. Thanks for checking out Patreon, stuff like that. That all is very static. So I felt like, oh, maybe I'll just use like a wallpaper or some concept art from the game, right? Which you can see with the Dragon's Dogma end screen, with the Baldur's Gate 2 one, right? The Starfield one is kind of a mesh of the two, right? It's kind of a mesh of the new and the old. And I think I prefer it. It's a lot less visually interesting, but ultimately over time it saves me a lot of time because I don't have to try and think of how to like splice together an end screen to use all the time. But I think it makes more sense on a cohesive level, right? Because the little featurettes or whatever that you can click on if you so desire, they're static, so shouldn't also the like end screen itself that I throw up, that should also be static? That's how I feel about it anyway. But like I said, I don't think it really matters that much in the long term. This is just stuff for me to think about back end. But yeah, also with regards to time, editing audio and stuff, that's fairly quick. Just make sure, I've been actually fiddling around with it so that way I have to do less on my end. But for playthroughs, generally, and for really most videos, you want to make sure like your audio is like compressed and normalized appropriately, equalized, which effectively means you don't want your highs too high and your lows too low, right? You want it to be, although it's a bit unrealistic, right? When you get animated, you scream really loud, and when you're whispering, it's very quiet. You want to try and convey that in a different way, right? By way of your speech, I think. But regardless, it makes it so much better of a listening experience if, whoever is watching 1 second can, in rare exceptions, I guess, there are rare cases where this shouldn't be the case, but for the most part, it's mostly even-keeled listening, right? The audio is roughly about the same all around. And ultimately, it just, I don't know, makes it sound better, right? It makes it sound better. Bring up the lows, bring down the highs. That's sort of why I go through with the audio editing. That's fairly quick. Like I said, rendering out the video, it used to take a long time due to dated hardware, due to free versions of video editing software, which we can talk about that in another video for folks who want to find it more easily, what I use specifically. In fact, I believe that was another viewer submitted question. But way back when I didn't have such tools at my fingertips, what I did is I would kind of prepare ahead of time out of necessity, because it would take an hour plus to render out a 50-minute plus video, right? Nowadays, it's significantly quicker. It's amazing if it's over 10 minutes per video to render out, to process through my video editor. So what I used to do is I would record it, and typically it would be I would render it out as I was sleeping, right? That way I would just have my computer on running overnight, rendering out the video for the next day, which ultimately kind of worked out pretty well, right? Like I said, probably a good idea to get ahead of that, to have it to where, oh yeah, I'm doing this a week in advance, right? Granted, you do miss out on sort of leaving a comment that will be seen for the next video, right? Like it's pretty much a staple of the playthroughs at this point to say, oh, gentle viewer so-and-so wrote in with this little piece of advice or whatever, right? And it is generally really helpful, right? I get to read all the comments and stuff, and they have some degree of impact on the next video, right? Whereas if I went the other route, it would be sort of a week in between, roughly, right? It's a bit of a trade-off, which, I don't know. I feel like I'd be willing to do that, but like I said, I'm just too much of a slacker to really commit to it consistently. But maybe something to consider, maybe something to really shoot for. We'll see. But yeah, that's how I used to do it. Let's see, what else? Uploading, just as well. That used to take quite a while, but I've since gotten really good internet. I live in a place where you wouldn't expect it, but I have fiber internet, and it's really cheap, and it's through a company that is like, I believe it's a collective technically, and every so often, like I think in September or October or something like that, toward the end of the year, they actually give me like $100-something because of how dependent upon how well the company does, because I think technically anyone who buys into the service is in some part like technically an owner of the company. Therefore, you either get money off of your bill for that month, and it's nearly free, or it's super cheap, right? And beforehand, this wouldn't have been possible because just didn't make enough money. But now it's make enough money from the whole YouTube process. And on top of that, it is technically a tax write-off to some degree, right? Because, you know, it's I am the one using the most of the internet for uploading and downloading games and videos and whatnot, right? That is almost entirely me. So a large chunk of that comes out in that way. Let's see. What else related to time management? Basically, in recent days, a lot of my ability to fly so close to the sun is just, I don't know, it's a like privilege. It's a luxury that I've gotten by virtue of having some amount of success with the channel and some degree of experience with it, right? Just by virtue of having done it so long and having found success with it, right? Had to be a lot more strenuous with time in the early years of operating the channel, right? Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else that I could talk about with regards to time management? I don't know. I intentionally very intentionally have it to where, although we have a schedule for days in which videos are set to come out, I don't have exact times. The exact times are always tentative because sometimes I'm just running late. Sometimes I was busy that day, so on and so forth. That gives me a whole bunch of freedom. I don't like to stress out about it, right? I don't see the point in stressing out about it. It's just a playthrough video. You know, it's not the end of the world. It's okay if it's running a little bit late. Folks will rib me for, you know, Morrowind Mondays on a Morrowind Tuesday, which, I don't know, I don't mind so much. Certainly I rib my own self for it quite enough. So I don't mind. It's no different from increasing the font size, as it were. Let's see, anything else? Yeah, I just try to set it up to where it's super chill, I guess. It's not the end of the world if something goes wrong. Like I said, in fact, we may have to miss videos or something coming up here soon because of scheduling issues, because I have to go out of town. I won't be able to record and whatnot. Apologies in advance if you were looking forward to them coming out as is right then. I've got shorts all ready to go. It's just a long form stuff, right? Such is the nature of things when the videos themselves are roughly 50 minutes a pop, right? If not longer. I guess I can speak on that. I generally shoot for videos being 50 minutes, and a little bit more, right? It depends. It used to be that early on in the channel's life, I came to sort of the idea of thinking, oh, maybe the first video should actually be shorter, right? The first video in a playthrough should maybe be shorter than the rest, right? It should be abnormally short compared to the rest of the playthrough. This is what I had thought, and I was wrong. I was wrong. So hopefully you can glean something from this, right? Hopefully you can learn something from this if on the off chance you're hoping to do this yourself, right? So originally I thought, oh, I'll make the first one a little bit shorter. That way, folks who click on the first one, right, they finish it up, they can quickly move on to the next one. They can sort of get into the process of watching the videos as it is, right? Of course, we've got set up, like I mentioned a while back in the ad video, how I run ads, roughly every 30-minute increment within a video, I will have an ad somewhere in the center, right? I always have the pre-roll, I always have the end roll ad, but if the video spans 30 plus minutes, there will be an ad break somewhere in the center. If it breaks 60 minutes, that's 2 30-minute increments, therefore there'll be 2 ad breaks in the center, and it just continues on from there, right? That felt like a very fair thing for me to do. I talk about more in the, my ethics on advertising or whatever it was video that I did a while back. An in real life video, I'll say. But, oh my gosh, I've lost my train of thought. Holy shit, we're gonna have to do a cut here. I've completely lost my train of thought. I've remembered. All right. Why did I have videos initially at the start of a playthrough shorter than normal, right? If you're a longtime viewer or if you've gone through some of the archives and stuff of certain playthroughs, you'll know that I've remarked about this. This was, like I said, this was done intentionally to hopefully get people into the process of just clicking through, right? Of getting them into the habit of oh, I'll commit to this playthrough, this playlist or whatever, and I'll just start autoplaying it, right? That was a horrible idea, because the vast majority of the playthroughs, I don't know, clicks, viewership, is from the start, right? Look no further than the Skyrim playthrough, wherein the first video of the Skyrim playthrough has reached, I think, near 500 grand, right? And then you see diminishing returns as time goes on, right? It like slopes in a way. That is absolutely expected with any playthrough, any sort of long playlist like that, wherein, each one is a continuation of the other. You're expected that you just watch through the whole thing, right? They're all connected in that way. Entirely expected, 100%, no big deal. But the key distinction is a lot of the people who will click to try out the playthrough or whatever, just for whatever reason, have found themselves there. It is super duper unlikely that they will go to the next video, because that is one extra interaction, right? This is something that gets talked about, I think, a lot in SEO and advertising and marketing in a way. The best way to sort of handle your customer, your client, in the case of YouTube, the viewership, right, is you want there to be as few clicks as possible, as little interaction as possible on the viewer's behalf, right? This is why stuff sending them off-site, sending someone who follows you off-site is a big ask, because there's that one extra little bit of interaction that's required where they have to go and click off the site. If you want them to go follow you on some form of social media, right? For instance, I have a Twitter or an Instagram, right? That's a little bit extra interaction. I don't expect that everyone who watches these videos does follow me on either of those websites or whatever. Similar with Patreon or Coffee or whatever, right? Those are extra steps involved. Even if someone is keen on doing that, the extra step involved, there is like a subconscious situation wherein it sort of persuades you not to do it, right? So ideally what you would do, okay, hang on, let me go back a bit. The situation with me making those first videos in the playthrough extra short was me shooting myself in the foot. Ideally, and this even helps with like watch time and SEO and stuff, the inverse should be true. Though those first videos in the playthrough, they should be extra long, I think. They should be, I feel, if you're making playthrough videos, right? I don't know how this would apply to other stuff that is episodic in such a way. But at least for playthrough videos, I'm convinced that that first video should be extra long, and then from there you tone it down, right? You go to your like normal, your average, what is normally expected, right? Because most people who click on that first video, they will be more likely to watch the entirety of that first video than to click on a second part and watch that as well, even if those first two parts in the shorter versions are smaller than the first initial super video, right? That is my thinking behind it. Thus, from here on out, and we've seen this, like, for instance, with the Dragon's Dogma playthrough, the first one will be significantly longer than the others, right? That's sort of my thinking on it. I think you get way better results. And of course, at least with my own, like I said, with my own sort of ethics in advertising and whatnot, there are just more ads in that first video, right? By virtue of it being longer, you know? And it gets promoted more because people will click back onto it. If they are interested in finishing that video, there is a chance that they click back onto it. Thus, the first part of that video gets sort of more technical viewership. And of course, it gets more view time, right? That's sort of my thinking. I do think that for those sorts, it's way better to have it super long on the first one and then teeter off rather than the inverse, where it's super short in the first one and then it goes upward. Let's see. Is there anything else I can talk about with regards to time? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, at least not off the top of my head right now. Oh, why did I settle on 50 minutes anyway? For that being the norm? Because an hour felt like too much, right? Which is ironic considering we've got a lot of videos that are like breaching the 1 hour mark, right? It happens. But initially from the get-go, I felt like, I don't know, having it to where it crosses over the 1 hour mark, that seems like a big ask, right? And maybe that is true when you're a smaller, less established channel, but there is absolutely some sort of, I don't know, if confirmation bias, is that the term for it? I don't know. But I've remarked on this before in the past, and it is absolutely a phenomenon, I think, wherein if someone is looking for other people to watch, when it comes to playthroughs at least, right? That's my realm of expertise, but I think it applies to a lot of other places as well. If someone is looking for a channel to watch, a video to watch, they're way more likely to click on something that has already garnered some degree of viewership. The folks who watch something that doesn't already have a lot of viewership or is from a channel that has a large subscriber base, even if, you know, the subscriber to viewership ratio is like severely diminished or whatever, for whatever reason, either because that's just the way the channel is run or it's like a niche topic within their channel or whatever. The idea is that you sort of see something that is proven to some effect to be worth watching, right? There is some degree of confirmation bias that, oh, if other people are watching this, or if other people like this person, this channel, then there must be something of value here, right? This is part and parcel why it's so hard to grow from nothing, is because you're at odds with that, right? You very slowly grow because, like I said, although there are people who exist that will click on and watch something from a relatively unknown person with very little in the way of popularity, folks who do that are few and far between, right? And understandably so, because not everyone has the time that day or ever on any given day to dedicate to trying out something that is so unknown, right? You're just not familiar with them. You don't know if you'll mesh with them. You don't know if your free time is worth it, right? Yeah, that's sort of the crux of why I always remark, especially toward the end of a playthrough, thanks for watching no matter how much you did, because, it's your free time, and it's an absolute honor that you would spend it in this way, right? To whether your attention is divided or solely focused on the video, it's absolutely an honor that someone would elect to spend their precious free time in this way with you, with whatever you have made, and sort of find some degree of levity or relaxation from it, right? Because there's a lot of different places you can spend it if they find, for whatever reason, that you're the go-to. That's a huge honor, I think. And the inverse is true, wherein you can sort of extrapolate from that, I guess I would say, that it's difficult to sort of commit to someone who is an unknown, who is unknown to you, right? And it's super understandable, I think. Even when you're in those early periods of sort of working on your channel and whatnot, and you're not seeing much in the way of numbers, it's understandable, because I think most folks who make videos and stuff are viewers themselves and do in some ways, exhibit those tendencies themselves, right? Like, sure, I try to watch an odd video from someone who I don't know, right? But a lot of my bread and butter is coming from the same folks I've watched for a long, long time, right? A lot of folks that I will watch a playthrough of, I'm already aware of, right? Even when I try to consciously think like, oh, maybe, you know what, let me just search up Let's Play Morrowind and see what other people are doing in the current time, right? I'll do that, but that accounts for a minuscule amount of viewership compared to me just sort of comfort watching people who I'm already familiar with, right? And that's always the hardest part, is getting into someone's comfort zone, having them aware of you, having them willing to take a chance on you, which is in and of itself, I think, a worthy topic for a future video. But I think that has everything to do with time and time management and how I'm really bad at it, right? Yeah, like I said, anticipate there being missed videos. There's a chance I may be able to get it all done ahead of time. We may even try to cut videos short. That way I can fit them all in, get them all recorded ahead of time, but we'll see. I'm not convinced I'll be able to get it done in time. But don't worry, it's not a bad thing. It's a celebration. Can't talk too much about it because it's not directly about me, right? But it's a good thing. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's In Real Life video. As always, submit some other viewer-submitted questions if you got them. I'll add them to the big topic list. Until next time, please take care of each other.